are live and talking about AI here in the Mid-Career Lab, February 2025 Q&A call. We have our good friend Steve Robinson joining us from Atlanta, who has a really cool story to tell about both his transition into this phase of his life, but also, surprise, surprise, this kind of jumping with both feet into AI, seeing this opportunity. So without further ado, since we got a lot to cover on this topic, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions that people have, we're going to jump in. So Steve, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the quick tour d'horizon for who you are and how you get to this place in your career.
All right, I'll give you the short version so we can get to the really interesting stuff, because I'm not. I'm Steve. I was born and raised in Northern California, and I had sort of a ordinary career. It's not over by any stretch of the imaginations. I'm in my 10th iteration of what my career is going to be. But for 40 years, I worked for the same company. It was a wholesale distribution company that was based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we sold art supplies to retail stores all over North America. We didn't sell to consumers or artists. We just sold to retailers. And I started really young, dropped out of college, worked in a store for a while, then went to work for the wholesaler that I bought from, and worked my way up through the company. I spent most of my time in sales and marketing. And I think the one noteworthy thing about my career, and the thing that I still rely on today and lean into, is that we were a very customer-centric organization. Everything we did was built around the customer, and sort of we reversed engineered all of our processes around what they wanted, our customers wanted, and where they were going. And so in 2018, in 2016, I was promoted to president, which is something I've been working hard to get to, and I hated it. And I realized that I was sort of cooked and was done, and I left. And naively thinking I would just pick up where I left off and go do stuff and make a lot of money, and that didn't happen. So condensing a little bit, I bopped around, tried different things, got a couple different things, got fired. And then I connected up with John. And it took him a while to get me to close the deal, to get me to sign and start working with him. But once I did, I have to say that it was one of the best decisions I ever made. It really opened my eyes. John opened my eyes in a couple of meaningful ways. The most important of which was, one was the least important, but still important, was that, and he said this one time in a meeting, he goes, Steve, you just need to get your head out of the clouds. You need to start thinking pragmatically, realistically, what you can do, what you're good at. And he laid out a roadmap for me, and I was typically resisting it because I thought I knew better. But the single most important takeaway from my time with John was finding my real purpose in life, my ikigai. And I got into that in a big way. After wrapping up with John, I read Hector Garcia's book on ikigai, even took the challenge and wrote haikus for a day for a year and a half every day. And sort of realized that what I was good at, what I loved, and what the world needed and what people would pay for wasn't what I was doing. It wasn't management. And there were two things about management that I really hated. One was management in general. The second was I had this problem with authority. And so long story short, I decided to really get serious about doing my own thing. And I've realized that one of the things I'm really good at is connecting dots. Listening to people, helping them figure out how to solve their problems, achieve their goals, and get stuff done. And but I didn't have the formula quite right. 66, I took a step back and I realized I was an analog marketer in a digital world. So I set out to change that, and about halfway through my immersion into digital marketing and learning all about MarTech and tech stacks and all this other stuff, I discovered AI, and I realized that this was something that was going to change, that was changing the world. The change has already taken place, and it's moving at a quite rapid pace. But it was the one thing about AI that I really resonated with me was that a person like me, a sort of dyslexic college dropout, non-technical person, could get it, could use it, and it worked for me. I was able to quickly, just using the free stuff that was the free subscriptions that were available, I was able to save time. I was able to do things that I couldn't do before, and get rid of tasks that I didn't like doing, so that I could focus on things I did like doing. And so I sort of decided that this was going to be the center of what I do, not what I do, the center of it, because the reality of it is that I don't want to help people plug into AI. What I want to help people do is adapt their business in a way that AI works for them. Because AI is a really unique thing. It's a technology, really. If you were to buy it back in the day, we used to buy software for our company, and we would have to change processes to adapt to the software. Well, AI, you don't have to. You adapt AI to your business model. You adapt AI to your way of thinking, your way of doing things. And I really quickly learned that. And so here I am. And, I kind of, John and I just sort of stay in touch every so often. I mean, more bugging him and telling him what's going on, but he's supportive, and I like John. And so I kept in touch, and then he asked me, would you come on and talk about it? And so here I am. And that's sort of a really short version of me, but I would say that my business model is really is focused on the customer that I spent my lifetime working with, small to medium-sized businesses, people who, bootstrap their business up from nothing, inherited a family business, and, they wake up every day and they work their ass off and they keep going, but they really sometimes feel like they're in the same place they were a year ago. And I know that, especially in retail, I know that this is where people want to buy things from. This is where consumers want to do business with, these independently owned businesses. And they want to go there for the experience. They want to go there because they agree with their values, and they know they contribute to the community. So my job is really to try and figure out how to help people align everything that they do in a way that helps them move forward more efficiently so that they can get ahead. And I do believe, I honestly, in my heart of hearts, believe that for the small business owner, AI is going to level the playing field. If they go about it the right way, inexpensively, easily done, they can start to get scale without the huge monetary investment, huge financial commitment that they would have to make 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago. And so that's sort of the core of my value proposition.
So let's focus in on that and kind of maybe circle back around to that question of what the small, medium business owner needs to know, because I think the small, medium business owner mindset applies to many of us, and certainly my whole methodology is about taking that more entrepreneurial attitude at this phase of our careers, where regardless of whether we're working in-house somewhere on a W-2 arrangement or whether we're consulting in 1099, we want to focus much more entrepreneurially, much more as a consultant. So my first question, though, is back to your discovery of AI and your kind of aha moment. What was that moment, and what was that introduction? What was that operation or that prompt or that problem that you fed into whatever the model was, Chat GPT, most probably, where you went, oh my God, now I get it?
Yeah. It's interesting. It was sort of a number of different things that led to it, and including a conversation I had with my brother-in-law, who is in this business. He works for NVIDIA, and I asked him to explain it to me, and he did, and it clicked. I understood what it was and how it worked, and so
what did he say?
I got
How did he explain it to you?
So it's really, think of it this way: AI is like a really smart assistant. And I'll take them back. Why don't I do this? Why don't I back up and explain to you, to everyone, what AI is? Then my answer to your question, John, will make a little bit more sense. So first off, and I've covered some of the questions that I think you guys may have sent in. AI has been around longer than I've been around. Artificial intelligence began in the mid 50s. And it was simply, the concept of it was simply, could we get a computer to think and act like a human being? And the answer was yes, and they could. And in the early days, it was just simple matching. They would, for example, you would expose the computer to a million pictures of cats, and it would learn all the different nuances of cats, what they look like: eyes, ears, fur, whiskers, everything. And then you would give it show it a bunch of pictures of a whole bunch of animals and ask it to find the cat amongst all those different animals. And lo and behold, it could. And so AI kind of languished for a while. Other technologies took the forefront, but it continued to develop. And some of the early things that came about were those Roomba vacuum cleaners. They use AI. When you hold your iPhone up to your face, that's AI. When you ask Alexa for a recipe or to set a timer, that's AI. So that matching component has been there all along. Quietly in the background, the people who were really passionate about AI were developing machine learning, the ability for the machine to learn on its own. And that led them to create neural networks, which was a networking. I don't get the real technicalities of all this, but basically inside the black box is like inside of our brains. It's a bunch of neurons that are knitted together into a network that work together. And so this evolved into the ability for AI to generate something that not go beyond matching, but generate something new, which is where the term generative AI came from. And so the way it works is, if you can imagine layers, 3 or 4 layers, maybe more. And the first layer, you put in your request, show me, what is the capital of France? You put in your request, and the first layer has a whole bunch of people in it, just for, imagine this, a whole bunch of people are really good at data. They live in a library, they've read every single book that was ever written, they have all this information, and they know how to find it quickly. They're not quite sure what to do with it. So they grab all the things, all the pieces that they think will explain what the capital of France is, and they pass it down to the next level, which are puzzle people. They're good at connecting dots, putting things together and creating a picture. And the last step is they give it to the teacher who corrects their work. Might send it back and say, this isn't quite right. Recheck your work. So all this is going on that fast, like I'm snapping my finger inside of the servers or wherever. And that's where my brother-in-law comes in. He was explaining that for what's happening now to come about, they had to have speed, data, and storage. And so that all kind of came to be, and that's what sprang up to where we are now. So what I just described is basically generative AI. It's a large language model, and it can create something original. It looks at words, it is trained on massive amounts of data, hundreds of millions of terabytes of data, everything on the internet, every book ever written, every page ever written, every paper ever written. And so they train it on that, and that's where its knowledge, general knowledge, comes from. And when you ask a question, it will give you an answer, and it will do a number of things. It can draw a picture, it can make a photograph. It will tell you that the capital of France is Paris because it looked at all the different possibilities, and they found that the most common connection in sentences was Paris, capital, and France. And they put that together and statistically decided that was the capital of France and delivered the answer. And so in a matter of a flash of a second or less, that's what you're doing when you ask it to do something. When you write a prompt and you ask for something, it goes in and it does all that work behind the scenes in the black box, which to me is like, I just don't get it. But, but I do get it.
The key concept really is statistical. What you are getting is a statistical output. It is not a conscious output. It is not a determinative output. It is a statistical output. It's purely running the numbers about what is the most probable thing that answers the question, or if I understand it correctly, the most probable thing that you want to hear.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Based on prior data.
It guesses and then it quickly assesses whether or not its guess is statistically true. It guesses letter by letter, word by word, and assembles it back to, because it can put it back together in a sentence, in a paragraph, in a way that we understand it, like we communicate. Then that's why they call it a large language model. That is the magic of AI, so that it can think of it this way. And this is what I tell my clients. Think of it AI. It's not going to take away your job. It's not going to replace it. It could, but I don't think at the end of the day, it's not going to replace us. It's going to make us better. Think of it as a really smart assistant, as your thought partner, as an analyst, and a creator. And I like to think in those two buckets, because you can analyze. I created a custom GPT on Chat GPT that I will have a conversation with. I'll put in a question like, I am thinking about running webinars to try and attract clients, and ask me questions, but I need to get your opinion on what I should do. It will ask me questions, I'll answer it, and we'll have a back and forth. And it's very logical. And it's like I've got an assistant like John, but I don't have to pay him. I pay him $20 a month, a lot less than I paid John. But I've got somebody that I can bounce these ideas off of, and it works. And I've learned to question it and to ask it to go back and, is there anything in your response that is not factually true? Or will you reflect on your answer before you give it to me? And I get clearer, cleaner, more accurate answers.
So
I want to get
back to this idea you're talking about a custom GPT. I want to get back to this a little bit later about all of the layers that we have now seen emerging, and this increased specificity of function that we're seeing AI tools come around to. But I still want to stay with the basics here, and I want to talk about this concept of the prompt and relate this back to simple search, simple, Google search, and ask you about the kind of the difference between a Google search and an AI prompt. And if you can kind of walk us through what a prompt is, what's the difference, and how to think about prompting a LLM to basically deliver something that you want, and what that interaction is. Because a lot of people think, oh, I put that prompt in and I didn't get anything back. They don't realize they can follow up on that. It can be a conversation where you're actually instructing the AI to do something and back and forth with you. So if you could talk about that.
Yeah, let me talk first about the prompt, and then I'll explain the difference between a Google search and working with an AI model. So the prompt is the request. I would like to have a list of all the possible whatever. I would like a list of recipes that I can use with lemons, and it will give you a list of recipes that you can use with lemons. The real secret to a prompt is, if you ask it a question, it will give you an answer. It may not be the answer that you want. It may not even be right. There's a thing called hallucinations, where AI will give you something that is completely wrong with such authority that you'll actually think for a minute that it could be right. And you have to question it, and you have to verify. So everything you do, you have to get in the habit of verifying it. And there's some tricks to that we can talk about later. The prompt has basically, to write a good prompt, you want to think in terms of context, role, and rules. What do you want, and what are the circumstances that you want it in? So the more information you give it and the more clear you are about it, the better you are. So I might start a typical prompt with a role. Actually, I might say, you are an experienced ghostwriter specializing in business analytics. You are known for finding unique solutions amongst piles of random data. Then I'll move to the next thing that I want. Today, we're going to focus on creating fill in the blank. And then I will give it rules. And I'm going to break the rules into two categories: what I want it to do and what I don't want it to do. And so typically I'll say, please be concise. Please, let me write this way. Please address the audience as though they're fifth graders. Simple language. And then I'll get to the things I don't want it to do. Don't use jargon. I do not want platitudes. Don't use bullet points, write paragraphs. I want 300 words. It's for a LinkedIn post. All those details. So they know exactly what we're doing. We partnered up. They know their role. They know that's the lens they're going to look at the task through. They have the task is clearly defined. And then I've told it what I want it to do and what I want it not to do. And it will deliver the answer. And I'll get a paragraph. I might, if I don't ask for it to avoid it, I'll get bullet points. I can get a table. In fact, I'll ask, please deliver the table, deliver your answer as a table. And there is a table, and I can export it or copy and paste it out or whatever I want to do with it. I can ask it to check its work. Will you please double check your work and make sure that everything you've told me is accurate and cite your sources? The last words are the important thing. Cite your sources. It will then tell me where it got the information so I can double check it. Now you have to keep in mind that very few of these models, they're not really connected to the internet. A couple of them are. More and more they're starting to have connectivity to the internet, but they're working on knowledge that is anywhere from 6 months to a year old. So if I were to ask them who won the Super Bowl last weekend, they might not have the answer to that. They might, but who knows? But you have to recognize the fact that it's probably working on old information. There are some ways that you can point it to the internet, and there are some tools. Perplexity is one that is connected to the internet. So
what is Perplexity?
Perplexity is an AI model that is very similar to Google. So I look at Perplexity as my research tool. If I were to go into Perplexity and I would say, I want to know everything there is to know about the generative AI models that are on the market today, will you please list them and tell me what their strengths and weaknesses are and what they're known for? And it will tell me that. But what's great about Perplexity is it's going into the internet and it's finding that information. And in the answer, it has all its citations. It has little footnotes, little tags, things that you can click on. They'll take you to the website where it got that information. It will give you follow-up questions, suggestions. You can ask more of it on your own. Perplexity is really dynamic and it's very thorough and it's pretty accurate. So oftentimes I will start, especially on a research, if I'm doing research, the research part of a project, I will start with Perplexity. Then I will take what I got from Perplexity to, say, Chat GPT or to Claude or something like that. And then take on the rest of the task using the base information that I learned with Perplexity. But Perplexity is really very good at giving you good current information. And it's verifiable because they tell you where they cite their citation. They give you a citation. The other thing that Perplexity does is they have a way of organizing all of your work in groups. Like I have one for each of my key clients that I have on retainer right now. I have one for my business. I have one for a couple of projects that I'm working on. So every task I do, I do from within that group. And what that does is it keeps it together in a place, and Perplexity remembers what we're working on. And I can actually load, now you can load documents into that. So I'll load my vision, mission, business plan, and my value proposition, and my OKRs, and all that stuff into the one that I use for myself. And that becomes my data, my custom data that uses along with its general knowledge. And so once I've got all this up and running with Perplexity, the more I do it, the better it gets at knowing me and what I'm doing and how it works. And so Perplexity is my research tool, my research engine. And from there, I'll go off and use, say, Chat GPT for more language-based things, more analytical things and stuff like that. And some coding. They can actually write code for you if you ask it to. Or I'll use Claude. Oftentimes, I'll use all three of them together. Again, pitting one against the other or fact-checking one another and things like that. Yeah, John.
This gets us to our next point. And I know Carolyn's got a question. I'm sure we've got a bunch of questions. But before we get to questions, I wanted to take this opportunity to go through the tools, and you
Sure.
set up a list so that we can compare the tools that are out there, and you can give us a sense of why would we go with Chat GPT versus Claude, for example, versus Gemini, versus Copilot, and a sense of how the developers are kind of angling their products and competing with one another. So I'm gonna.
And also just to add to that, and what they cost and what the learning curve is, because we don't have endless time to learn all this stuff. And
Right.
Okay.
either. So.
Right. Good point.
Good
So,
question.
so let me just share this this list. And is this legible? Should I let me
Can you
just
make it larger, John?
a little bit larger, and we'll
Yeah,
kind of,
there you go.
right. So if that works. So Steve, why don't you kind of walk us through the relative characteristics of these top popular Gen AI tools?
Okay. So to begin with, I made this table using Perplexity, and then I took it to Claude, and then I took what Claude gave me to Chat GPT, and this final version it came from Chat GPT, just like you're looking at. All I had to do was copy and paste it into a document, make it a PDF, and send it to John.
So you asked it to create a table, right?
Yep. Chat GPT is owned by OpenAI, which is heavily funded by Microsoft. So it's got a lot of connections to Microsoft, but they're the one that got this is the one that got the most, it gets the most buzz right now. And to sort of, when you get a subscription, every one of these models has, different versions that you can use. So in other words, you could go on right now and sign up for Chat GPT for free, and you'll be using GPT 3.0 or GPT 3. And it's okay. It does a good job, but you can get timed out pretty quickly because it has a limit on the number of queries you can make and stuff like that. If you pay, it's $20 a month, and you have access to 4.0, 01, or 1.0, and a couple of others, which they all do different things. And they tell you right up front that they're really unique in what they do differently. And so ChatGPT is really strong conversationally with creative writing, reliable with coding. It has a really good language base. It's fast. I believe it's the most accurate. Besides Perplexity, it's the most accurate of all of them. It has some limitations with internet access, although they're improving that. The 4.0 can actually connect to the internet. It works best, and you just give it this instruction in your prompt. Look through Bing, because it's a Microsoft product. Look through Bing, and it will find some information. But there are some commands that you can give it, and then you can put in your URL, and it will go look at that one URL. Best use for marketing, business strategy, content copywriting, code assistance. Brainstorming is awesome for brainstorming. It's like really it's like having your own little personal consultant that you pay $20 a month to. The Chat GPT has one other really unique feature, which is, and this could be a whole nother call onto itself, is you can make a custom GPT where you connect your data, whatever it is you want, and you can put up a lot of it in there, to the general knowledge, and you tell it what you want, and it's a tool that you can use. So for example, I made a custom GPT for a client who will give it to their customers, their retailers, and they can use the custom GPT to write marketing copy or copyright marketing stuff that is branded to that manufacturer, has their brand vision, their brand standards, all that stuff, so they know their customers are staying in brand. It's super dynamic. It's really good. Claude also costs $20 a month. It's owned by a company called Anthropic. Claude is the more ethical of the different models. It will actually refuse to give you an answer if it doesn't think it should. It has almost no access to the internet. So everything that Claude is working on is about 6 to 8 months old. Claude is really good at writing code. If you want to do something and you want to have it produced in Python, for example, so that you can give it to your developer, it will do that for you. You talk in words, you have a conversation with it, it will spit out code. You tell it, here are the things I want to go in my website. It will design a website for you, give you the code, and you can take it and use it. I don't know how, I haven't done that one yet, but it can be done. It says it's weaker in code than GPT, but trust me, it's still very good at writing code. It's very good at a lot of what it will give you is two versions of a written version and the code version behind it, the underlying code, if you wanted to look at it. Again, limited real-time search, things like that. Great for summarizing documents, really good on the legal end of things. If you're dyslexic, it is a little bit more user-friendly. It's a little bit easier. I started really, to be honest with you, the first one I started on was Claude, and I really loved it until I got to work more with Chat GPT and found Perplexity and realized that I really needed all three of them. And so Perplexity and Claude has, you can do projects. So Claude has the ability for you to load your data in or client's data or something like that. So you can create a project and then it will work off of that project and keep everything sort of cohesive in the sense that you're using both your data and general knowledge to create the outputs that you get. And that's a really good feature. Perplexity. So let me answer John's first thing about what is the difference between Google search and something in AI. So I'll use Perplexity as an example. So if I want to know what the best pottery wheels are, I'm a home potter, I want to find an electric pottery wheel to put in my garage so I can make my own pots and stuff like that. Give me a list of the best pots. Google will give me a list of websites that I have to go click on and do the research. Perplexity is going to tell me a story. They're going to tell me all about them. I don't have to go anywhere else. And so what I'm going to get from Perplexity is all the details I want and the features and benefits of these pottery wheels. It will give me a little picture of each one and a link to where I can buy it at the best price. And it's all delivered to me right on my screen. So I don't have to go take those extra steps that Google did, which is really, really powerful. When you think about it from the standpoint that from a time saver and a thoroughness, I've got one place to go to shop, to research, to get all this data, and it's stored there and it's kept there and I can control it and I can ask follow-up questions, clarifying questions, and fact check it, ask it to fact check itself. So whereas to sum it up, Google, Bing, whatever you want to use, is going to give you a list of places to go look. AI is going to tell you a story and they're going to tell you everything that you need to know about it. So you're going to take fewer steps, you're going to go deeper, you're going to be more in depth, and you're going to get a better answer in the long run. And then, and so Perplexity is really great for, I talked a lot about it before, so it's really great for research and finding things. It's really strong in business productivity tasks. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong one. It's great for fact checking and researching and things like that. I love Perplexity, and oftentimes if I'm working on a project, Perplexity is my first stop, Claude's my second stop, and I polish and finish it off with Chat GPT. Gemini or Copilot, the next one from Microsoft. I am not a big fan of Copilot. It's very oriented towards Microsoft. If you want to use it for data analysis within spreadsheets, or you want to use it to do better work when you're working in Word or something like that, it's great. It is a lot of times you will have to convert a spreadsheet, for example, to a CSV file or a PDF or whatever to use it in one of the other models. With Copilot, you don't. And it's more and more, it's becoming embedded in Office 365 and stuff like that. So it's one click away from having AI work with you while you're working in your favorite Microsoft product. Gemini, the Google product, is the same thing. I'm a Google guy. I use Google Suites. I use Google Gmail. I love the fact that it's so well connected to that. I can get my feeds in my email. I get like a Google feed, and I can ask it to summarize it for me, and I can pick the articles I want to read. So I'm a lazy reader, so it makes my life a little bit easier. It takes the information, you can put it into a Google Doc cleaner and more effectively and better formatted than you can the other models. But again, it's not as good as the other three. And, you know, I think it will get better in time, and the competition is really steep on all of this. One last thing before I get into the learning curve and kind of go through the expenses and things like that again. All of these use each other's models. Perplexity uses a GPT model. Perplexity even was using the DeepSeek model from China. The R1 was part of their toolbox. I think it still is. They might have kept it. This is the base model where that black box I described earlier. They share that, and it's being embedded in all kinds of places. It's embedded in Salesforce. It's going to start showing up AI every place that everybody that tells you they rely on AI is probably operating off of one of these base models, one of these large language models that these guys have spent hundreds of millions of dollars to create. All of these are like about $20 a month. Google is a little bit more complicated. If it's in G Suite, it's part of your plan. I think if you just have a free Gmail account, you pay maybe, I think it's like $19 a month more for that. That's about all you need. Chat GPT has a great new tool that's available if you want it. It's $250 a month. It's out of my price range. I don't have it, but it's supposed to be really pretty cool. So it's pretty easy to do. Learning curve. If I can do it, you can do it. I guarantee you that. I'm really not that smart. It is easy to, it's super intuitive. You can't break it. You can delete something if you do it. If you don't like it, you can delete it, or you can keep it and keep working on it and keep refining it. You can find some free classes you can take. If you have a LinkedIn premium account, you have access to all the LinkedIn classes for free. And those are really good. That's where I started. I took about half a dozen of them. And then I went ahead and I popped for the membership on Section, which is Scott Galloway's deal. And those classes are superior, but it was $500 a year. But yeah, you can do it for free, or you can pay $20 a month. I have all three of them plus my Google account, and I get the Copilot with my 365 account. And that's it in a nutshell on the models. Any questions on those?
So I want to go back to Caroline. Did you have another question, or did we cover your question?
Well, I was curious, is a Perplexity their own company, or who owns them, or who is invested in them?
I should know the answer to that, but I can't recall right off the top of my head.
I was
believe
just
it's a
curious. I
standalone.
would like to know who owns who and who's, because I know Chat GPT is 49% Microsoft. And now Elon Musk, of course, is trying to buy it.
Yeah, well, Elon Musk co-founded Chat GPT.
Well, he was an early whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was actually invested, but he was an early person.
Yeah,
he's out. He's out now, but he'd like to be back in.
Yeah, right. I mean, strangely enough, his whole thing going in about AI was and the reason for the investment in OpenAI was to counter what he saw Google doing. He thought that Larry Page and Larry Page apparently had a huge falling out over this. That Larry Page was basically saying, "Yeah, I'm okay with a robot apocalypse," and Elon was aghast at that and thought, "No, humans have to be the center of things," and that's why he invested in OpenAI, because he wanted to make sure that AI stayed human and under human control.
Yeah, but he got kicked out. He and Sam Altman had a falling out.
Right. So exactly. So now we're getting into, billionaire alley. Anyway,
he's into other things.
Steve, what do you pay for Perplexity? Because I'm trying to remember. I think I was offered a year free of Perplexity. I'm trying to think of.
They have a free version, but it's $20 a month to get the Pro.
Okay. So just like ChatGPT, they're following this business model.
Yep. So you can get a good suite of tools for about $60 a month.
Bob, before we go to you, Leon had an interesting question in the chat. Do you want to share that with everyone?
Sure. It's really more or less like how, Steve, how you apply, sort of your knowledge, and in terms of, you mentioned earlier in the conversation about how you're helping small businesses scale. Are you working with a specific industry, with regard to the arts, the brick and mortar for art supplies? Or are you working with a variety of other industries, small businesses to actually apply, sort of certain processes that you've kind of come across in terms of how to scale, or do you do like a full discovery of their business to figure out, oh, well, how can we kind of like help you scale based on, understanding all your processes?
The answer to all of your questions is yes. I have been really seriously pursuing this AI part of things and really seriously pursuing my business for about a year now. And it didn't get off the ground too quickly at first until I sort of took this turn towards technology and then eventually AI. So my current retainer clients are within the art materials industry, brick and mortar retailers. Actually, one's a retailer, one is a manufacturer. It's a smaller manufacturer. And the approach that I take, and if they want me to come in and just like teach us how to write prompts, I'll do it. I will try my best to get them to take a step back and look at it from a standpoint of, what are you prompting for? I mean, the basis is the same rule that has always existed in technology: crap in, crap out, applies here, except you're going to do it faster. So my approach is really, I try and look at people, process, and technology and help them align those in a way that allows this tool to give them the scale that they're looking for. And in all honesty, the hardest part is getting them to take that step back and admit they're going nowhere right now, and doing the same thing over and over again isn't going to change anything. And maybe they should give it a shot and maybe listen to me. And the two clients I have done that. And so I'm open to working in other industries, but I went where I'm friendly people. And in April, I'm going to give a talk at the Industry Association conference for the Art Materials and Craft Retailers Association, and hopefully get some clients from there. I've done some talks. I talked to a group of realtors and talked to them about how to streamline their marketing that they do for themselves and whatnot. But I think, in all honesty, I feel I would be doing a disservice if I just taught them how to use it, pointed them to the subscription, and moved on. I really want to have a client for life. I really want to help them grow their business in a meaningful way, which means let's get you ready to make the transition. Let's make sure let's upskill your people to think differently about their jobs. Let's get you as the owner to look at this not as a way to cut costs, but a way to provide tangible, actionable, sustainable business improvements that you can go forward with, that you can level the playing field with. But I read this really great article. Yeah, I'm off to the races. Sorry, John.
Yeah. No, well, I want to come back to the article. I'm sure it's good, but I wanted to ask if you could, and I want to get to Bob, and then Caroline has a question. I wanted to ask you about some use cases, some specific use cases where you're seeing a particular problem that your clients are encountering, and they're trying to solve it one way, and you're saying, look, if you used AI, here are the time savings you could do. Here's the brainstorming you could do. What are some of the problems which they don't think of as being solvable or addressable through AI that you're helping them deal with?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the best example I can give you is the project I'm working on right now. It's the manufacturer. It's a $30 million company. They make a variety of products, all in the art and craft industry, and they've like everybody, they hit the wall. They can't grow, and they can't scale. They haven't figured out how to scale. So our conversation started on AI, but it quickly blossomed into a real look at that people, process, and technology. And where we centered on is really trying to help them engage differently with their customers with a reduced staff. They had to reduce staff. There was a need to do that. And what I basically said to them was, we can grow the sales, we can grow the business, you can work better, smarter if we do things differently. So for example, we're working on creating some prompts that are actually a prompt template. So you take the prompt and you copy and paste it in, and it's got some blanks where you put in specifics. And what the prompt will allow you to do is it allows a customer service person to write follow-up emails on about half a dozen different topics to customers. Sorry your order was late. Here's how I've resolved it. Sorry, we lost your order. I resent the new product and I've sent you $100 gift card for your trouble. All they have to do is some minor adjustments, plug it in. They'll get 3 versions of the email, of the letter back, pick, polish, proof it, and send it, and they're on their way. The GPT that I created was designed, and when it's in beta test, we haven't tested it with actual customers yet, but it's designed to give to retailers, small retailers, to create their own marketing collateral without having to call the marketing department, which is 2 people, and bog them down looking for assets. So they put all their assets in a web dam, and now I'm giving them a tool to keep the message branded to my client, and then the copy comes out at their customer's wish, the way they want it. They can sit down, and in 10 minutes they can write 5 Amazon or 5 Facebook posts, shelf talkers, email blast, and talking points for a staff meeting. 20 more minutes, they'll polish it up. Off to the races they go, and it works. And so that's the use case, is we take what you look for. What I look for is, where are the pain points, and how can we fix them, and what are the workflows that we can change, and where does AI fit in or not fit in? A lot of times we'll fix the workflow without AI, but sometimes we'll use it with.
Steve, are you also feeding in finance data, for example, sales data, large quantities of data, which is probably cursorily examined, and asking the AI to make some conclusions about trends, seasonality, volume, margin, those kinds of questions to help them make better financial forecasts?
Yeah, we will. We haven't actually done that yet. My methodology is to start with the language heavy sides of things first. The data gets a little bit tricky, and part of the reason we didn't jump straight into the data, I didn't jump straight into data with this client, is that their data sucks. I mean, you've got to have good data. It's got to be clean. It's got to be organized in a certain way. Otherwise, you just get gobbledygook back out. But to your point, John, we have been able to, we created a way to show a retailer how much more product they have to sell if they discount it by 10%. Say if you discount a product by 10%, you need to increase your unit sales by 37% in order to make the same margin dollars. So we created that. We created some low-hanging fruit where we were able to come up with some basic formulas to do that. Now, personally, I've gone in and taken sales data. We've created some rough forecasts, calculated GMROI, gross margin return on inventory investment, and things like that. So it's doable, it's possible. I just haven't gotten there with any of my clients yet. I'm sort of still baby stepping them up to the data part of things.
Bob, what was your question?
Yeah, it's kind of a follow-up to what John was just asking, Steve. First of all, Steve, great job. Learned more about this than all-day seminar, so thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm chair of the board of directors for a local university, and I've been thinking about trying to put the financial information into something. I don't know if it's Claude, Perplexity, Chat GPT, and then ask, kind of to analyze that data, what looks like it's working well, what's not working well, where the landmines at. I'd be curious, what do you think I should, which of those that you think I should use? And then my follow-up question to that question is, like LinkedIn, the premium version, LinkedIn premium version isn't worth the extra cost. Are these worth the extra $20 a month to get it, or can I get by with the free version?
The $20 a month is worth every penny of it. The free version isn't even close to what you don't get any of the features really that will work best for you, especially what you want to do. The use case that you just described, I would not try on the free version. And there's 2 reasons I say that. One is that once you put your data into that language model, it's there and it uses it. It will use it to create its general knowledge. So technically, it's out there. And could be found. It's highly unlikely that it will, but it's out there. And so, this gets into that whole area, and is an area that I've, gonna have to wrestle with, and do wrestle with, is protecting my clients and their data, protecting myself and my clients and their data. So I would first off, what you want to do is very doable. I would use Chat GPT, and I'll tell you why. There's one very specific reason. When you buy the paid account, you go in and all your settings for your account. It's hard to find, but you can find it. There's a little switch, and you turn it off. And basically what you're saying is, I do not want you to use anything I do with you for your general knowledge. And it keeps it safe with you. If you
So it's not going to train on your data.
Yeah. So it's not going to, it'll train it for you, but it will not train for other people. So it keeps it proprietary. It's the best thing you can get to putting up a firewall around your data. If you do a custom GPT, you can set that, because you're putting even more data in, and it's more directly connected to the model. You can set that to where it stays in that custom GPT and goes nowhere else. So I would use Chat GPT. Make sure your data is clean. You got to, probably put it up in a CSV file. Write your prompt smartly. Ask it, and you can start. What I would do, here's what I would do if I were you. I would go on Claude. I would say, I need to write a prompt to analyze my company's financials or my university's financial data. I've got the year-end financials. I want to do a deep analysis. Will you write me a prompt that I can use on Chat GPT? And it will give you a beautiful prompt. You take that prompt and tweak it the way you want it. And then you can do this thing where you can start to work with Chat GPT by saying, you are my business partner, you're a financial analyst and a CPA, for example. I really want to analyze my university's financial statements. Walk me through, think step by step, and say it that way, think step by step. Walk me through what you would need me to give you in order to do that. And it will tell you that. And then you can take this little prompt that you got, maybe adjust it based on what it tells you, and you can start to give it the information that you want. And at the end of every prompt, ask it to reflect on its answer on its response before it delivers. So it will give it one more pass for accuracy, and then just double check their work. And so play around with that. I've written prompts on one to use on another, and it works great. I love Claude for writing prompts, to be honest with you. They give you really good prompts.
I wanted to get to Caroline's question, which is a very practical question. Do you want to share this? You're muted.
Mute myself. Sure. Yes. I apologize that I joined late, so I didn't hear your introduction, but I heard you say about that you work with art supply companies and things. I'm a classically trained fine artist. I'm doing a lot of glass art now. This is some of my.
I see that.
This is an 18
beautiful
glass disc.
Yeah.
And I have just started having work in juried shows, both exhibitions and weekend sales shows. I just found out yesterday I got into the Kings Mountain Art Festival, which is on Labor Day weekend up on Skyline, which it's a premier selling show here in the Bay Area. So I'm very excited about that. But my question is, I've got a good website, but I haven't been doing a whole lot on social media because I haven't got I work full time for a major solar panel manufacturer, and I'm trying to create art, and I'm studying with an international glass artist, and I'm in an art community, and all this other stuff. And so you said more in the minutes that I've listened to you about understanding what all these different components do and how to work with them together than I've seen anywhere else. I'm sorry. There's so much being bombarded at us, and
I know.
There's now hundreds of platforms. There's not dozens. There's hundreds of different apps and different this and that. And I have one list from somebody that's like 5 pages long, single spaced, and I'm like, oh, forget it. But your very practical understanding, what you just suggested to Bob, I definitely need to have a one-on-one conversation with you, because I know it's not just me. I know a lot of artists who are struggling. And if you even developed a template or something that it could be a product for artists. I don't know.
How they could use it for
Because I know so many artists, and most of
Yeah.
them are not good on the business side. I'm a trained
Yeah.
sales and marketing professional, so I'm a little bit different than most. But
Well, you
Right.
guys should connect well, outside of
Yeah.
the call, and I can put you guys together, and you can have a
please,
conversation
John,
about
That would be
I
awesome.
really
Happy to help.
and are you here in the Bay Area? Where are you?
No, I'm in Atlanta. I grew up in the Bay Area. I spent the
Oh.
first 35 years of my life there. Flew out there twice a month for 14 years. But
Oh.
yeah, I'm a Bay Area kid, but I live in Atlanta now.
Oh no, I lived in
So,
Marietta, Georgia for 6 months one time. So.
oh, there you go. Yeah, we're practically neighbors. I used to
But,
live in
but I
Pleasant
grew up
Hill.
in New England. I'm a New Englander originally, but I love the weather out here.
Good
But
for you.
okay, so you're that. But yes, so yes,
So-
I will listen to the.
Great. We will do that.
So-
I'll put you guys together. So we're wrapping up here. We're just about at 1 o'clock or a little bit past 1 o'clock. I want to get Marty Holstein's question in, and then I want to just alert everyone who is on the chat to look at Stevie Rim's comment, which I think is also very helpful as a resource for anyone else who is interested in going deeper on AI. But Marty, take it away, and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Oh, thanks, John. A couple quick ones. One, do you need the pro version of Chat GPT to make a custom GPT? And what's involved in making a custom GPT?
Great question. It's super easy to do. There's two ways to go about it. The easy way is when you're on your screen, just go to custom GPTs. You'll find a whole bunch of them that people have already made. It's sort of like a little marketplace, like your Apple App Store. But you can go to my GPT and make a GPT, and it just asks you questions, a series of questions. You can upload documents into it to use. There's a prompt that you can write that'll connect it to a website, or you can just say review Bing. But it will take you step by step. You can save it, and then it sits in your place, and you can make it public. You can hand the URL out to other people, and they do not need an account. They just go on and use whatever tool you created for them. You can hire a developer who can plug in APIs to this, so that it will go in and attach to all of your, let's say you've got a digital marketing stack, you use Slack or whatever, you can attach to those things and it can draw information from there.
But you need the pay version, the pro version for that.
The paid version, $20 a month, you can make a custom GPT. They have great tutorials. It's super easy. I just played around with it until I figured it out.
Oh, great. Thanks. One quick thing, legal. Which one did you say was best on legal stuff?
I'm sorry, what?
Legal, like doing legal research or opinions, lawyers.
I have to confess, I am almost completely deaf, so I'm having a real hard time understanding you.
You're talking about legal. You're concerned about legal research into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just everything you do on any of these models, just know that you got to check it. There is a legal GPT that you can use in Chat GPT. It's in the market. You can find it. I tried it. It works pretty good. They will even tell you it. Yeah. It's all set up with legal stuff, so you could write a contract with it and things like that. And then just go check it. I just be careful because it makes mistakes. Remember, it's just guessing. It doesn't. It's not really smart. It just guesses. It's just a very educated, well-trained guess.
Or and since there's so much crap on the internet, which is where it learns stuff, so it learns the crap. It can't discern truth from fiction.
It doesn't know.
It's
exactly.
all statistics. All right, guys, this is great. We really kind of got a head of steam happening here at the end, so I really appreciate it. I'm glad this has been valuable for you all. There will be a recording in the Mid-Career Lab, so look for that. And I think it'll probably also be on the LinkedIn event as well. So thank you so much for attending. We will see you next month. And we have another guest on a very different topic next month that I think will be equally interesting. So thank you all. Have a great month.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
Nice to meet you all.